to arrive. And if you're not familiar with what's going to be happening here, I am Derek DeWeese, and this is going to be Spilling the Ink. And what I'm going to be doing is talking to, I think, 8 different vendors who are going to be here at the Arkansas Pen Show. Now, the list is kind of fluid. I think we're going to be starting with the Veterans or Pen Turners Association, so they should be here shortly. Our schedule got pushed up a little bit, but glad to see you here. And we do have this streaming on YouTube and on Twitch. So if you have any messages to send into the chat, go on and throw them in there, and we will try and answer those. Oh, we already got someone here, Juicy Lucy from Cornwall in Southwest England. That's great. So we do have the chat showing up in the room. There's a TV in the room, so there will be some live people coming in and out. But if someone in the room has a question as we go through the different guests, I'll just repeat that because we don't have a microphone that they would be able to hear. Got Needle Girl from Atlanta saying hello. So just kind of waiting now, just kind of leave the background music. I'm going to mute the microphone, and once we get the guest in here, then we'll go on and get started. And so looking forward to this. Hey, David. So I will be back momentarily. I'm just going to switch it to the room view camera, and we'll have that just kind of playing in the background, and I'll turn the music back up a little bit. But we are here, and yeah, this should be good. Should be fun. So let's see how it goes. Okay, if you're just joining, we're kind of waiting for the first guest to come. We're here at the Arkansas 2026 Pen Show, and we'll be doing the presentation with the different vendors coming through. So we will have people in the room. So I just have the room camera up for now, and then as we have people coming through, I'll be switching through so you'll be able to see who's talking and who we're talking to. So just staying by. We're just waiting for the first guest to show up from the Veterans Pen Turning Group. So we will be back shortly. So for those of you watching the live stream, if you're just getting here, we are going to be started here shortly. Just waiting on the first guest to arrive with the show going on. People, if someone's up at the table, it might be a bit of a delay. So be a little bit fluid, but should be getting started here any minute. So if you're on the stream and you're just joining, we're getting started momentarily here. We're going through the, just letting our first guest kind of get some of his stuff out from the Veterans Pin Turning Group, or Veterans Wood Turning / Pin Turning Group. And he'll be talking about that for this first part. And then we'll have some other vendors coming through who are here at the 2026 Arkansas Pin Show. So I see a couple people in the chat. We got Atomic Elf in California. We got David down in Austin and some others. And we have people coming into the room as well. So we will get started with the actual first interview here in just a minute. And yeah, we'll be right back. So for those of you who are watching on the live stream, we're almost starting here. We're going to be getting going here any minute. Just letting our guest get his stuff because he's talking from the Veterans Pin Turning, so he has a lot of props and things to talk about here. So we'll be started here momentarily as he gets up to the microphone and whatnot. So yeah, if you want to go and move up closer to the mic, you probably don't need the headphones, Ken, because you'll be able to hear me talking here. Okay. You don't have to hear the audio here. So let me go in and unmute your mic. And if you can go in and talk into it, and let's see if we hear you. Okay, try again.
Good afternoon. How we doing?
Okay, that's going to come through good. So let me go in and officially start here. So let me switch to here. Oh, let me adjust that. My camera got a little bit off kilter. Let's see what happened here. Okay, let's get that there. Up there, narrow. Okay, so welcome to the 2026 Arkansas Pin Show live stream. We're going to have some of the different vendors and guests here talking about what they do, what they're offering, or what they're part of. And our first guest is going to be Ken from the Veterans Pin Turner Association. Let me switch to the right camera here. So we got Ken. So welcome, Ken.
Thank you.
So Ken, just kind of tell us, start about, what is the Veteran Pin Turner Association? What is your mission and what do you do? And then we'll get into letting you show off some of, the stuff you brought with you to kind of help show what you're doing.
Great. Thank you. I'm Ken Leslie. We started this pen program at the local VA hospital in North Little Rock 10 years ago. One veteran, one rec therapist, and me with one wood lathe 10 years ago. That room now has 8 machines in it. One of the ladies that started out working with us moved from the CLC unit we were working on to mental health. She purchased 3 lathes in mental health. Now, if you're in the VA hospital in North Little Rock at Fort Roots, in the mental health care unit, pen making now because of this program is a prescribed treatment. That's how seriously they take this at the hospital. We've since moved the program to the VA home in Fayetteville at the new facility. Walmart bought the land for the home, paid the architect, and they're supposed to build us a new room because we've already got the program up and going in Fayetteville with the wood turning club up there. So that's kind of how it started and where it's gone. We also trained people from 8 other hospitals around the country. They flew to us. We trained them how to do it. We won a grant that provided each of 9 other hospitals 2 lathes apiece and enough material to make their first 100 pens.
Wow.
And then, everybody said, wow, how cool is that? And then COVID hit. About the time they got home with the machines, so everything was shut down, and we didn't have great response from that, but we tried it, started it, and it is working a little bit, but it's working fantastic here. So we're proud of it.
No, that's great to hear. And, as someone who's getting into turning recently myself, I can see how it would be very therapeutic because I find it's very comforting to like turn on the machine and just let, see things fly away and whatnot. So I can definitely relate to that as someone who's new to the pin turning, just as kind of adding into the enjoyment of the hobby. But so you brought a lot of stuff with you. So let's kind of talk through how the process works. So how do you get someone started? Do you do an intro class to the lathe and then kind of get them through, or just jump in full tilt?
Just kind of jump in. It's a very easy process, and we've kind of streamlined it quite a bit. I have one of my volunteers who, believe it or not, retired as the wood shop instructor from the Arkansas School for the Blind. He was working with us with the veterans and thought, there's probably an easier way to do all this. And I bet I could go back to the blind school and start this program at the Arkansas School for the Blind. He went back, set him up 3 little lathes. And the first year, the senior class made enough wooden pens to sell them for enough income to pay for 17 of them to go to Branson for their senior trip. So that's another place it's moved. And I call these things my long-legged pens. And you said therapeutic in the wood shop. It so happens that everybody refers to a wood lathe as the most therapeutic tool in the wood shop. And if you started, you'll attest to that. We had one veteran that just literally got barely hold a chisel. He was what they call an incomplete quad. In fact, he was our first one. And he would just get his body moving like this, and he didn't close his eyes, but he looked like he was asleep. Did the best work, and he used to ride a motorcycle before his injury, and he said, this is just like riding a motorcycle. He'd say that he was working across it. So it is very therapeutic.
No, I can definitely see that.
And that's why the hospitals really latched onto it.
No, and it's great because it's something that's it's therapeutic, but at the end you have a pin to show. You have something to show for
That's
whatnot, and
absolutely,
it's
absolutely,
like an extra bonus after the fact. You're
absolutely, yeah.
getting a chance to
It's not
ease
some
the
meaningless.
mind, and then you have something to take away afterwards, or and to sell to help the program to pass on to others and things like
Exactly,
that.
exactly.
So
And they really get into that aspect of it. They keep several of the pens they make. They help us promote the program, give a lot of them back to us, and then we're able to sell them here. We're selling them at the Maritime Museum in North Little Rock. We actually got wood from the USS Razorback, the submarine. They were her battery trays. We salvaged the wood, and I cut blanks out of that wood, sold them back to the museum, and they're reselling them with USS Razorback on them, all made by my veterans. So
no,
it's just,
that's even a better tie-in because when you got the Razorback in Arkansas making pins out of wood from the Razorback to sell to Razorbacks,
yeah. And
you're really coming full circle
Where are we
there.
sitting right now?
In the Razorback room,
We're in the Razorback room.
this room is very red. If you're not familiar, for those of you who might not be familiar with Arkansas, I'm from Nashville, but at least I know that, this red you're seeing, this entire room and the room next to it is all dedicated to the Arkansas Razorback. So a lot of red, a lot of memorabilia and stuff on the wall, but it's kind of a neat tie-in in this circumstance here. So
And we can make tie-ins. I can tell stories all day long with different tie-ins that these pens have made. We've got one veteran that started working with us, and one of our veterans that we were working with rolled in and told his name, and they actually named a building at Ouachita Baptist after him. So my friend that was volunteering with us said, "You're the coach that won all the games," and yeah. He said, "I got a story for you." And my friend that volunteers with us met him and said that he married his wife because he wanted to go to one of those games, and his wife could get tickets because she went to that school. So she got him tickets for the game, and they've been married for 50 years. So that meeting that coach that was making pens with us is just another tie-in. And I got stories like that all day long. So you want me to?
yeah, so let me move the camera around there and let's see. So from sitting where you are, so we can hear you on the microphone, are you going to start with the press? What are you going to start with? Are you going to work right to left to right, or kind of a
Probably left to right.
Okay.
And the only reason I've got all that stuff is to share what they look like, and it's a way to keep notes for me, so I don't tell you things 10 times, because I have a tendency to do that.
No, so
I think I was vaccinated with a Victrola needle, so.
Okay, so I've zoomed out a little so you can see kind of up on the screen what we're looking at here. So why don't you go and start with just talk us through the process and what you have with you here.
The wooden item here with the handle sticking out is a custom-made pen press. The aluminum one over here, that didn't make the trip. There's an aluminum one that comes with the pen making kits that's kind of cumbersome. You have to be able to use both hands very well, fiddly little parts and stuff. So my friend that took our program to the blind school said, we can find something to put the pens together much easier. So he invented these pen presses. He invented 3 of them. There are 3 processes in the pen. You have to press it 3 different times. There's one press for each part. He rigged it up to where blind kids did it. So it's very easy for the veterans to do it. We have limited vision veterans that can't use both hands. So this was invented literally for our program to take to the blind school. He's made them now for the Veterans Home in Fayetteville, our home in North Little Rock. They're using them at the VA hospital. He's a genius.
No, that's great to be able to make it adaptive and offer that to people who, it's not keeping them away from getting the therapeutic benefits of the pen turning in the process.
Absolutely.
So
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so, the press, because if you're not familiar with pen making, for those who, are you doing mostly kit pins where you're
with
pressing
the veterans?
Yes. So let me switch over here. So I'm talking. So do you have a kit with you?
I've got one.
Why don't you grab it while I'm talking here?
I've got it kind of glued to a board where we can pass it around or hold it up or whatever you want to do.
So Ken's going to grab that, and for those in the room, he'll be able to pass it around. But if you're not familiar with kit pins, they kind of come as like a brass sleeve, and you have the metal ends that you'd put together. And let me switch to that camera view there. So let me zoom in some and move it over here. So you can see there, it's the different pieces of the pin, and there's the wooden blocks. You've got the brass sleeves or other metal sleeves, tubes, and that's what the press is going to use. You have a refill that's going to go in, and then the little kind of decorative bands or clips, depending on the different kits. So, talk us through that. I mean, I know enough about kits. I've been making more 3-piece, but I got a general understanding of how the kit pin works. So, kind of talk us through what one of your people in your program would go through with those pieces.
Well, now in mental health, they're taking raw lumber, cutting it to length, drilling the hole in it, and gluing the tubes in. In our bigger programs with more people, we've streamlined it. We have volunteers at home that drill the wood, glue the brass tubes in. The brass tubes hold the pin on what they call a mandrel, so it turns with the machine. And then the pressing part of it is all of these parts are a press fit into the end of these pins after you turn them. We turn them down to a bushing on a mandrel that's laying there. When you turn it down to the size of the bushing, then the pin parts fit perfectly. And you can see them on our table out there all done. But this is, believe it or not, except for the wood, this is about a $2 kit. So when we sell one of our pins here, this buys 10 more of these kits for the veterans. And that's the only thing that keeps us going. We're a 501c3 now. We can take donations legally. And this, I mean, we've done so much with so little. Absolutely no federal money, no state money. So, but this barrel has to be pressed in. That's the mechanism. We call it the nib, the finial. Those all press in. There's a different arm for each one of those operations. So there's 3 arms, all invented by a buddy of mine. And then the best adaptive tool we've got is the red thing here on the table. That is a commercial piece of equipment.
Can you hold it? Can you pick it up so we can see it in the camera a little better?
Absolutely.
For a lot of these things that you have, if as you're gonna talk to them, if you can hold them, that'll make it a little bit easier for us to show those on the stream as well to those in the room.
The red part of this is commercially available. You mount the black end on the bed of the lathe past the tailstock. Then this articulated arm comes with a straight, where this one's bent, the ones they sell come with a straight arm. So you attach this to the end of the lathe, and you're going to want one of these for, because you're probably going to make bowls at some point. So this will hollow the inside of a bowl that's spinning on a wooden bowl on your lathe. Hollowing system is what it is. Now we got a lot of volunteers. You'll see a list at the door. We got 20 people on it. They're all volunteers that came on board that are helping with the show this weekend. One of the volunteers from Ozark Wood Turners from Mountain Home had one of these arms. He said, you know, if you took one of these arms and bent the tip of it a little bit, it would work for the outside of work as well as inside of stuff. So, wow, what an idea. This is not my idea. So I bent an arm that we had on one of these. Wow. Now, because of this arm alone, most of our veterans, as it turns out over 10 years, more than half of them have limited use of one limb or the other. With this thing, and I added this handle to it, the company that makes these, I sent them a video and said, man, if you'd start making them for everybody to use like this, you know, I'd buy more. Now we bought about 10 of them. They sell them like this now. So it's our invention that now worldwide, and we're proud of that. But we adapted it so one-armed people, which turns out, like I said, to be a lot. I took it a step further. This is mounted on the lathe. This swings freely, and this is the cutter here. So now this just slides back and forth, completely articulated.
No, that's
this
really
rests
great.
on the tool rest, so they can turn a pen literally with one finger hooked in this C-clamp. So don't roll into my pen lab and say, I can't do that. We'll find a way. So,
and for those who aren't familiar with a wood lathe, and looks like my camera,
I was going to carry one in here, but I
well,
didn't.
no,
Yeah.
let me, I was going to see my cameras are going, they're fighting me here. Nope, that's the wrong one. So essentially, let me switch to the wide view. If you're not familiar with a wood lathe, there's a metal bar, and what he's showing, that cutting tool rides along the edge, so that way you can come across spinning material on the lathe to get an even pull across. Or just in case for those who aren't familiar with how that process works, that's what he's talking about. So that way, someone who has limited mobility can just push and pull, and it'll slide on that wooden or that metal piece, and then keep the constant angle that's needed in order to turn a concentrically round pin.
And the reason this is a great help, and he'll understand this, on a wood lathe, when you've got a handheld chisel on the tool rest, your tool has to meet the wood on its horizontal center line. When you get them smaller and they start getting round, it's important that you're right on that horizontal center line. So we call it finding a sweet spot. The people with two limbs can move the back of the chisel up and down just a little bit and meet it exactly on its horizontal center line. And when you find that spot, we call it the sweet spot. This thing's adjusted at that sweet spot all the time. So literally all they have to do is slide it back and forth and shape the pin.
No, that's great. So that is, I think it's extra great that the company started making them like that. So that way it's not limited to someone with a program. They could take it and say, if they know someone local to them who's a turner, hey, can you help me use this tool that will let me make a pin with you, or something like that?
You're liable to want to help somebody someday. It's from Hollowing Systems in Minnesota.
Oh, that's definitely great. So what do you have next up there on your bag of tricks?
More little adaptive tricks. I'm just going to get a handful of them. Now, when you get a pen turned down, when you're done with a chisel, a real wood turner wouldn't really need sandpaper, but we don't consider ourselves wood turners. We're pen makers. So we're not the best wood turners, neither are our first-time pen makers that we work with. So you have to sand the wood down with sandpaper. So some of them can't reach it. Some of them don't have enough control to take a folded piece of sandpaper and put it under and sand the pen smooth. So something as simple as this, it's a paint stir stick. I came up with this. It's got a piece of Scotch-Brite on there. This is auto body style sandpaper. It's called Stick It. You fold it in half, it sticks back to itself, and it makes a real rigid little piece of sandpaper. We put them on here with paper clips. Now they can either rest this on the tool rest or hold it out here like this and sand it smooth and watch the sawdust go, and they can see the pen turning, and fantastic. We use only 4 grits. This is kind of a stretch. 4 grits of sandpaper. You got fine grit and rough grit. We take a huge jump from 400. The bigger the number, the finer the paper. We work with 400 and 180. You start with 180. That leaves scratches in the surface. Then you take 400, and all this does, 180 shapes it a little bit. This takes the scratches out from the shaping process. So they do that all from 2 feet away if they need to. And we coat the pen. I came up with the wax. I didn't invent it, but I wanted to find something. Imagine working in a hospital environment and trying to put some kind of a nice finish on a wooden item. What do you use? Well, luckily there's a wood turner's wax that's made for wooden bowls that happens to be food safe. What better product can you use in a hospital environment than food safe turning wax? So it comes in a stick about this long, and if they can't reach it, we help, but most of them can reach it. While the wood is turning, you just push the wax against it, and the wood, it kind of accepts the wax. It kind of builds up on it. So now you got a horribly waxed pen covered in wax. The friction causes the wax to stick to the wood. Then you have to take the wax off. So we have it. I should be tired of this, but wax on, wax off. Anybody remember where that came from? So every day, okay, wax on, wax off. We have fun with that.
No, as you should. I mean,
so we put a paper towel on it, keep it folded up. Now they can put this under the pen while it's spinning at high RPM, about 3,000 RPM. And I tell them, try to break the stick. You have to push this hard enough to develop enough friction to melt the wax into the wood. So you're taking some of the wax off and the rest of it's being melted in. So And you'll see the pens out here. That's the only finish on them. Completely odor free, food safe, and another adaptive measure. So that's one more. One more thing, actually two. You see decorative rings. I didn't bring a tool. You see decorative rings burned into like a tool handle that goes around the circumference of the handle. It'd be impossible for most of them. This is a music wire. I make these. You hold one ball on one side of the wood while it's turning and pull down on it, and the music wire touches the wood and burns the little ring in it. And some of them use this quite successfully, but the ones that can't, this is my deal. I wanted a way everybody could do it. So this is actually stolen. This is from one of the home centers. When you go to buy Formica, you take a little sample of what you think you want. Well, this is a sample. This is one that I was wanting. So I took a sample home, glued it to this stick. Now you hold it against the wood while it's spinning, and it burns a ring in it beautifully every time. Most of them can do it. It has a tendency to kind of want to thread itself if you don't have it 90 degrees to the wood, so they struggle a little bit with that. They push it in literally till it smokes, and then that ring is permanently burned into the wood. Some of my guys, gals, love this. They have a pen with rings from woe to go. Place smells like a fireplace in the winter, and we all have fun with it. I've got one more thing. Can I go backwards for a second? Now, this is why I wanted to scatter it all out. This pen started it all. I was gifted this pen by a friend. He thinks I did him a favor, so he thought I deserved a pen. So he gave me a wooden pen. I'd never had one in my hands. This was 20-some years ago. We can tell ironic stories all day long about the connection with other people in the pens. I cherished this thing. I learned how to do it by myself because nobody around here that I knew was doing it 20-some years ago. This was gifted to me. So think about if you give somebody a pen, what it might do later down the road. Like you're going to start making pens. Just think of the impact it may have on somebody further down the road, because this one pen now, the rest of that story was he was the volunteer chaplain at the VA hospital in North Little Rock, and he gave me this pen. Then I went full circle with it. He'd passed away, and I went to volunteer at the VA because of this pen. This is what started it all. So think about that when you gift somebody a pen, what it might mean to them. Some of them stick it in a pen drawer. I chose not to do it that way. So this.
No, that's neat that you have that. You can carry it around and show that, you know, this is what got the whole idea started. Because think of how many people who have been helped because someone gave you that pen 20 years ago.
Thousands, probably. Yeah.
No, that's great.
One pen.
So you've got all the props and stuff. So just, you know, you're going to be here at the show. You're selling different pins.
Yes.
And so when someone buys a pin, you said each one can create what? You've 10 more kits.
The sale of one pen buys us 10 more kits. The veterans know that. They are very supportive. They make several pens and keep a couple for family members or whatever, for themselves, for the nurses, for the staff. They give us the rest of them. That's what keeps this program going, is their generous donations to start with. We sell them, pay it all forward. So that's how it works. Yeah.
That's great. So if you're going to be at the pin show this year, you know, definitely go check out the booth, see, you know, talk to Ken. I'm sure he has some other great stories just from this short little interview time of, you know, talking through the process, having to make those adaptive tools to be able to make this open to veterans, regardless of what their status is and what they can and can't do. It sounds like if you're working with Ken, there's not a can't do. It's a let's find a way so you can do. And that's just really cool. So you can get the benefits of that therapy, and then, you know, go pick up a pin. So then that's going to be 10 other kits down the line. And that's going to stack. So maybe buy one or two, you know, buy them as a couple of gifts, and then just think of how that will trickle down. And then that pin you give somebody might be like Ken getting a pin from 20 years ago that starts another trickle down effect. And I have someone asking in the chat how someone can donate. So do you have a website or something for people who are not Little Rock?
I do have a piece of paper with a lady's name on it that actually engraves our pins for us. She keeps them at her house. You can call her number. She'll engrave a pin for you and mail it to you. She's got a Facebook presence, but it's not really very active, I don't think. We're looking for more help with all of that because we need a presence out there online.
So what I will do is I will try and find a way, and maybe we can work with the Arkansas Pen Club to put some notes up from this episode as we can collect them together. So if you're watching the rebroadcast, but we'll find a way to, if you want to donate, we will find a way, even if it has to come to me through some way, I will find a way to get it to Ken's program because.
And we have a 501c3.
Yeah. It sounds like a great cause. So David, I will find a way to get that donation. And I know you happen to know a couple of people at the show, so you might be able to reach out to some of the people you know from the Austin Pen Club who happen to be here, and maybe they could donate in your behalf, and y'all could deal with it on the other side. But, definitely if you have the means and you're going to be here, pick up some pins from Ken's group so that way this can keep going forward. So,
and we got a special this weekend until we run out of key fobs. If you buy 2 pins for $40, which is what they'd cost, you get a free key fob till we run out. We sell those for $10. So it's another win-win. And then I shared the magazine there with him. We were featured in Pen World magazine about 2 years ago in April. And I feel like that gave us a lot of street cred.
So we got this here. It's Pen World, and it's the one with the blue. What is that? Looks like a blue.
April. It's April issue.
So if you're a Pen World subscriber, definitely check that out, and you can read on page
58.
The Power of the Pen on page 58, all about the program and hear more in depth and read there. Because sometimes reading is it's a different medium where you're going to receive it differently. So definitely check that out, and we'll see if there's a link we can put for an online version of this as well in the notes afterwards. So I think we're about to have the next guest coming up, Ken, but anything else you want to add in just as a kind of a final?
Really. I wondered if anybody had any questions while I'm here, but I know you don't have much time.
No, I mean, until the next person gets here, the floor is yours. So if anybody in the room has questions or anybody in the chat, if you're in the chat, throw them in here and I can read them out. And anybody in the room, you just raise your hand and we can take any questions, and I'll say those into the microphone so that those watching the stream can hear.
Anybody? If you get me started, I won't quit. How many are local? How many of you people are local? Nobody. I was going to volunteer you to come help. We're running out of people. This is something, if you can share this with the world. None of these young people are coming up volunteering. I don't know what y'all do, but we can't find volunteers. The volunteers we have are my age. We're aging out. We're losing people. We had to stop working on Mondays. We're only working Wednesdays because we're losing people. We need volunteers, and I've got Boy Scouts that come. My nephew's going to be here tomorrow. He's 14 years old. He volunteers with us. But there are not very many younger people coming up. So,
no, we'll definitely pass that along, because chances are if someone's watching the live stream, they're probably on the younger side too. But we can talk to Chad, who's the president of the Pen Club, and help him get that message out, because it's going to be beneficial. If nothing else, it's interesting for someone who's a pen person or in the hobby to see the other side of it.
Sure.
And if it's a benefit where they're helping out with your program and veterans, it's a win-win. Like you said, it's
all a win-win.
It's win across the board. So yeah, I think, and let me switch this back over here. I'm trying to get cameras to participate. But yeah, I think, sorry, trying to move which one's which. Chad, I think we're about wrapped up with Ken. If we have okay. So I'm going to switch this to the room camera here. We're going to shuffle around a bit. So we'll be back here in just a minute with our next vendor, which looks to be Bone Crusher Studio. So we'll be back here in a couple minutes. Okay, so now we have our next vendor from the Arkansas 2026 Pen Show. So let me switch the camera. Go and introduce yourself. Tell us who you are.
James White, Bone Crusher 7 Studios out of Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Can you scoot your chair a little closer so we can hear a little bit better in the mic? And then we'll go there. So here from Colorado. So tell us, your pen maker. Is this your first time at the Arkansas show?
Yes, first time in Arkansas. Usually we do the Denver show. Last year we did DC.
Okay. What have you thinking of the show so far? Have you already sold some pens?
I've already sold some pens. I've bought more blanks than I needed to, but yeah.
That's seems to be a common thing here. I've seen a lot of people walking around with blanks. All the makers going to the other makers' tables and leaving with more material that's going to show up as a pin at the next show they're going to.
Well, that's the main reason I wanted to do Arkansas was to meet some of the casters that I've worked with in the past.
So, did you get blanks from who?
Chad, Kaza, I got some from Bob Dupris, and some from Nick Pasquale.
And if you're not familiar with Chad, he's Elon Anchor, and he's kind of he does a lot of clear things, and he's actually the president of the Pen Club. So, how long have you been into the pen making yourself?
So similar to the veterans organization, I did a pen turning class in 2008 at Fort Campbell once I got back from Iraq. And I did kit pens for probably 10, 11 years. And then after that, once I retired out of the military, I got into making the kitless fountain pens.
And were you already a fountain pen user, or did you just kind of, was it the next level from kit up into the fountain pen?
It was the next level. I mean, honestly, I catch a lot of slack because I don't really use that many fountain pens myself. My wife loves them, but I use mostly pencils because I'm either writing down a casting idea or I'm drawing out something that I think I want to make. And it's a lot easier to erase a pencil than it is to try to get another sheet of paper and redraw everything.
No, I get that. I'm a fountain pen user, obviously, but as I've started to venture into making, I use pencils exclusively in my shop notebook because that way, as I learn more, and if I need to change my instructions or my list or my measurements, I can pull that eraser up, erase it, and then I'll use the pens for other stuff.
Yeah.
Got to have the right tool for the job.
I have one pen that I use a lot, but I don't journal a lot, so it's very limited.
No, and that's something and other makers I've talked to on the podcast and things like that. Some people just enjoy making, and they'd want to make and share, and you don't have to use what you make. I mean, you might be the person who makes a great pen. You don't have to use it. That's the nice thing because you get the tactile. You're like, especially you coming through making kit pins and then making the other. Just the joy of making and seeing the cool materials, or just for me, the last thing I want to do at the end of the day is look at a screen. So going in the garage and watching spinning acrylic, that's a lot more appealing to me than, or like Ken was saying, the previous, it's kind of therapeutic watching the lathe spin and working with your hands, and we're just working with the materials.
Well, the cool part about especially the round blanks is if you look at the outside of the blank, you have no idea what the inside's going to look like when it turns down.
Yeah.
So it's a surprise.
Yeah, and that's been a happy surprise with a couple of the ones I've done so far, and I'm sure it's for, you've been doing it a lot more volume for my 30 pins total, as you're turning and you're like, oh, I don't know what this is going to look like, and then you finish, you're like, man, if had I known this is what it's going to look like, maybe I might have done a different shape or different design or something like that. But so you're at the Arkansas Pen Show, you've brought pins to sell, and at one note, friend bought one of yours, and I love the case that your pins come in. The little, what looks like a plastic rifle case. Yeah. That is wonderful.
So when I was shipping pins overseas, USPS is, questionable about the packages arriving intact. So I was looking for something I could ship them in that would be durable and protect the pin. So I came across that design, and we've just been doing it ever since.
No, they're great. And I'll put a link or a picture because I know a friend who bought one, or we'll have links to all the vendors and guests who we talked to in kind of the after the stream notes, and we'll have kind of a summary. But it looks like a little plastic rifle case, and it's like perfectly fit for the pin, and it's just a cool little addition. I love cases. I love the accessory. Like things that go with things. I think that just adds to the purchase of, oh, I'm getting this pin, but I'm also getting this really cool case to go with it.
Yeah.
They kind of go together hand in hand. So, what other shows are you going to be at this year? You said you normally do Denver, sometimes DC. You're here to, more on a selling some pins and getting more materials to make pins mission. What's
So
next?
this year we decided to take on a couple more shows. We just finished up California, just finished Baltimore. So we're doing Arkansas. After Arkansas, we have Chicago. Uh, Somewhere in there, I forget the exact timeline, but we're also doing DC, Orlando, Denver, and Pacific Northwest.
So you're doing a pretty good cross country mix of shows this year. It sounds like then.
Yeah.
Covering all the regions. So that's good for people who are watching on the stream. If you want to see the Bone Crusher 7 studio, right?
Yeah.
Bone Crusher 7 pins, definitely go, you hear that list of shows, go check them out because there's some cool stuff. I've passed through all the show, looked at all the tables. You buy a couple things on the first pass, but tomorrow's the main day for more shopping because a lot of my time was setting up and preparing for this today. So that's where the shopping is going to kick in tomorrow. We'll see what ends up happening, but if nothing else, I feel like I'm going to have to get one of your pins to have a case to go with it, because both of them go hand in hand. It's just, like I said, I love the little accessory type quirky things like that. So, we're doing these are pretty short order. Oh yeah, if you don't mind, someone in the audience here has one. Why don't you hold it and just kind of talk about the pin, James? Let me switch over to you there.
So this is a box elder wood with an acrylic resin. We line the inside of the wood with ebonite. Wood, when it dries or it gets moisture in it, it tends to flex a little bit. So the ebonite flexes with the wood. Most all the wood we do, we try to get it stabilized unless it's oily wood. And the stabilizing helps stop that process. But if there's any flex at all, the ebonite will flex with it. But yeah, the tactical cases, they work pretty good, especially for shipping. I was joking with somebody. I said, you could kick this from here to your car and your pin is nice and safe.
No, I mean, a lot of my equipment, I have the Pelican or the knockoff Pelican cases and that kind of case. And there's a reason why those are so popular because they protect whatever you're going to put inside with the nested foam. So that's great that one of our audience members had one to show that because that's, it's just a neat little add-on to go along with the pin. And you're getting an elderwood pin with ebonite. So, I mean, that's the feature. And then the other is just the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
But other than that, you were talking about the shows you're going to. Anything else you want people either on the live stream or here at the show? Because I think a lot of people will be watching this who are going to be coming tomorrow to shop. Especially all the Arkansas people. So anything you want to plug or talk about that you're going to have tomorrow, or just something that they might want to be a look at. What's like maybe the latest pin you made that you're really wanting someone? You're the one that's sitting on the table. You're like, oh, I just made that. I want someone to buy that one. What would be that pin?
So we just recently got some material in from Mark Coster from Hobble Creek Craftsman, and he does some real nice work. We did Espresso Grande, which was pretty popular. He had some new stuff come out that was limited edition, Green Apple, which is a sparkly green with translucent. So we polished the inside of that. I wish I had more segmented wood pins with the stone inlays at this show, but I wasn't able to get them done. We had a couple that we sent to Baltimore, and hopefully we'll have some more in Chicago. But as far as right now, I would say the segmented pins from Cocoon Blanks and Pinsmiths, or the stuff from Hobble Creek.
No, that's great. And so definitely if you're going to be in Little Rock, go check out the Bone Crusher 7 Studio table. If not, what's your website?
Bonecrusher7studios.com.
Bonecrusher7studios.com. So pins that aren't here, there might be some on the website for sale as well. So definitely check that out because the pins are beautiful and the cases are, I could tell because I would do the same thing. I can hear the fidget click, because that's, I'm a big fan. And thanks to our person in the audience, Anne, who happened to have a pin that she had already bought from you today on the first day of the show to have that as a prop. So, any last things as we kind of wrap up, as our next guest will be here shortly?
No, just happy to be in Arkansas, and hopefully we have a good show.
No, and that's a great way to end it. So definitely check out, like I said, if you're going to be here in person, Bone Crusher 7 Studios, or check out their website. And we'll be back here in a couple minutes with our next vendor guest to talk about what their offerings are for the show. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Okay, and we have our next guest, and this is someone, if you're familiar with my channel and whatnot, you would have seen before, but we have Joe Crace of the Gentleman Stationer. Welcome, Joe.
Hi, everyone.
So, Joe, tell us what you brought to Arkansas. What is on the menu for the Gentleman Stationer's offerings here this year?
So this year, it decided to do something a little bit different, yet sort of the same as what we normally do for Arkansas, which is really focus more on notebook systems, paper, and desk and reading accessories. This tends to be a heavy maker focus show as a smaller regional show, and thought it might be fun to kind of break things up a little bit.
No, and that's something I always appreciate is that, you're not bringing pins because you want to have the stuff that's different. We had someone in the chat saying TGS. So that's always great to hear. So you have notebook systems. This year you had some local makers in addition to like your rotor Fodden that you're really well known for. And do you have any of your special edition rotor Foddens with you this year?
I do. I brought several of the TGS 25s, which is the A5 Slim rotor Fodden. But like you said, I also brought some leather handmade notebook covers from a local maker in Nashville. I won't say his name because he's not quite ready to go public with everything yet, but I've got them at the table, and we've got 3 different sizes, including a full A5, which is really nice, and they have some nice finishes on them.
No, and I was looking at those, and I think I saw a couple of people picking them up, and they look great, and they're the elastic closure style, which is really popular. You can throw multiple inserts in there, a lot you can do with them. So how many years have you been at Arkansas now as a vendor?
As a vendor, I think this might be my 4th show.
Okay.
I've done at least 3, but I think it's 4, and I've come a couple times as an attendee as well.
Yeah, and if you're not familiar, Gentleman Stationer now has a physical store in Nashville, which I am fortunate to be. It's one of my local stores, and I go there just about weekly and find something new each time, that's amazing to go into a store with that kind of frequency and find new stuff. So what are some other things that you're either gonna you might not have here, but you have on the website that you've gotten in? I know recently you picked up the ebonite ballpoints.
The Loretz pens out of Japan, which is a machining company out of Japan that makes automotive parts, and they're known for their really fine, detailed knurling, which they've applied to ebonite. And you have an ebonite ballpoint with a knurled grip, and that's something pretty unique.
Yeah, and ebonite is just that unique material because it just has a different look and how it's presented, and to have it in a ballpoint versus, most people think of ebonite and fountain pens, but to have it as a ballpoint, that's a different offering, which is nice.
Yes, they make a lot of things that you don't really see a whole lot of.
Yeah.
Knurled ebonite is definitely one of them, but it's an interesting product. We actually found them met them for the first time in DC a few years ago.
No, and that's great. And if you're not familiar, recently Joe from Gentleman Stationer and Lisa Vanness have started a podcast called On the Paper Trail. So talk about that. Are you going to be doing any events for that or any recordings here while you're at the show?
Maybe a live stream on one of these 2 days, but we're actually really getting geared up for next week. We'll be in San Francisco for the San Francisco Stationery Fest. And on Friday at that show, we're going to be doing a live recording of an episode.
Oh, that'll be great. So definitely check out. I think you'll have information either posted on your site or whatnot about the details. So it's been a great show so far. You're 5 or 6 episodes in?
5 episodes in.
Yeah. 5 episodes in, and it's a different perspective because you're getting to hear from shop owners who are also enthusiasts in the hobby. So it's a unique viewpoint of kind of both sides, a hobbyist into a business owner, and you get both sides. So definitely check that out as well if you're not familiar. But as you talked about some of the stuff you brought with you. You brought the papers and the journal system or the notebook systems. What are some other just recent things you've had in the store, or things like that that might want to mention?
Well, I mean, I think we haven't added anything completely new recently. We've kind of, are working on getting the store in Nashville kind of consolidated. I mean, of course, have had like all the new releases from Kaweco and Twisby coming in, but I would say that we continue to add different papers from Japan. We had some new Yamamoto papers come in, some of which we have here. We have the Canopus. We have Robiki is back in stock with some new covers. So we're really right now, we're kind of focused on, we're still bringing things in and adding things gradually, but we're definitely now kind of focused on really building out the brands that we have.
No, and if you're not familiar, the Canopus is actually a great paper. I picked up a couple of packs of that the other day to cut down into A5 because it comes in A4 loose leaf, or it has the A5 notebooks I think you have, and then also the bullet jotter tablets of Canopus. And it's just it's neat to see new papers coming out that have different adaptability because I actually prefer it with pencils more than I do fountain pens. It works really great with pencils that I hadn't anticipated. But other than that, what else do you want to share just to kind of, in this little bit of time we have, just in terms of future plans for the store or for the podcast or whatever?
Well, I mean, really just we want to take the podcast and the stores to more of these smaller regional shows. I think the big shows get a lot of attention, but what people don't want to miss out on is the community experience. And these smaller shows that are often put on by pen clubs and by regional pen groups tend to be a lot more intimate. They tend to be friendlier shows where you can actually have conversations with the vendors and the makers and other people in the community. And it adds something to the show experience that often is lacking in a show where there's, thousands of people and you can barely move in the ballroom. And so I would just add a plug to come to your regional shows. I mean, if you've got one within 3 hours of you, make the drive, if only for the day.
No, definitely. And that's one thing I really love about Arkansas is that it's, yes, you can do some shopping, you can see some new things, but you also get a chance to hang out with pen friends after, or like the roundtables, unique events that the smaller shows can offer that just don't scale to the larger shows. So, are you doing a roundtable tomorrow? Are you hosting one of the tables?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, so if you're not familiar, Arkansas does the round tables where it's kind of like musical chairs where you have different people set up at stations, and then the people get up and move, and the presenter stays at their kind of preset area. So I'm doing one tomorrow actually on vintage typewriters and how they can be incorporated into stationery and things like that. So it'll be a one on ink swatching and a different variety. Is yours going to be on notebook systems? That's a common one.
I think so. I think I normally do notebook systems and just the different methods of covers and note-taking methodology and stuff like that.
No, so that's great. And, we're kind of getting to where we're going to have the next guest coming up. So any final thing to add in, this is just to ask the question. This is the new thing. We've never done this before to show or anything like this. So is this a format you like of being able to kind of talk and have people see on the stream and
I think
get the information?
I think it's great to have as many different people attending the show or as vendors to get in front of the camera. And, it gives people who are considering coming to a show a sense of who's going to be there and what types of things they can find.
Yeah, and I like this because we're doing it on Friday, so the people who are local in Little Rock can see what they have in store, because there's a lot of people who are a one-day attendee who live in Little Rock, and so now they can kind of get a preview of some of the things they'll see tomorrow, some of the vendors and guests. So that was why I was like, hey, well, let's do this. I think it'd be a fun experiment, and so far it's been great. So really appreciating this, but any last words to share before we kind of pause for the next guest to come up?
No, thanks for having me on.
No, this is great. So that's Joe from Gentleman Stationer. So check out gentlemanstationer.com. And then if you're going to be at the pen show, stop by his table and pick something up and say hi. So we'll stop there, and then we'll have the next guest here in just a few minutes. Okay, we have our next guest here, and this is also someone I've had the fortune to talk to in the past. We've got Daryl from D Squared Arts. Welcome, Daryl.
Hello.
Okay, so just kind of give people, we got the live stream and the people in the room, introduce yourself, kind of tell us what you do and kind of how you got into it, the Cliff Note version.
Okay. I'm Daryl Davis. I have D Squared Arts. Started out doing ceramics. That's basically what I studied, what my degree's in. And Sean Newton from Newton Pens, he basically bullied me into making blanks for him. Not really, but he talked me into making blanks for him, and then he talked me into making pens, and that's how it all started.
No, and you know, I've already fallen victim to Daryl. This is one I picked up day one. And talk about Daryl, because for those of us who've seen your pens, we understand, but you don't do pens necessarily in the traditional way. You do more of an functional art piece. So how do you craft like this pen that I was holding up? This is all done with what? Chisels and rasp and whatnot versus traditional turning in some instances?
Yes. So the connecting pieces, the part where the barrel and the cap meet and the section, those are all made on a CNC machine. And then I take that, what I call a starter, and I shape it with rasp and sandpaper and like metal pieces that I pull like shavings off from and stuff. I can't remember what, a scraper. And so it's all shaped. No lathe made, lathe used, just all hand, like turning it and stuff.
So you use CNC to get it to like essentially the cylindrical starter with threads in the middle, and then it's all hand tools or custom made tools that you've developed just to do the different shapes. Because one thing I appreciate, I own another Daryl pen that I have a video on, if you saw, that looks like a vintage screwdriver handle, and that one's great. But some of the shapes you've come up with and the way you're doing swirls and whatnot, like talk about your rocket ship looking pen, because that one's fun.
Well, I mean, it's a rocket ship. It stands up on its end. The shape can either be where the cap is the tip of the rocket ship, or the fins are the cap. And so I can do a lot of different things with that. But the main thing is to try to make it fun. Something that, like, you're going to pick up and look at it, and it's just going to make you smile. It's just something different. So,
yeah. And that's, if you go up to Daryl's table and look at all the designs, you're going to pick them up. You have to hold some of these pins to kind of, the shape can be deceiving when looking at it, but then you pick it up, you're like, oh, wow. And then you feel it in your hands, you get that hand feeling like, oh, and then you're probably not going to put it down. And you're just except for to get your wallet out so you can buy it. That seems to be how these things go. And then, it came with like a pin sleeve that went with it. Now, do you make your own pin sleeves for them as well? So get a hand sewn pin sleeve. And I was lucky enough to find one that happened to match the pin like perfectly. So that was a win. But, you do swirl shapes. You do, how many years have you been doing pins now versus just doing the blanks?
Blanks 6 years, pins, I think this is my 3rd year. So, if you are at the show or you're coming to the show, I actually have it set up to where hopefully I'll be able to demo some of my work so that people can see it, because it is different. And a lot of times when I'm trying to explain what I do, most people revert back to like, oh, you're doing the rasp and sandpaper on the lathe. But no, it's all hand done, and the texture that you get from the rasp compared to like the edge of a blade that would be on a machine, or your oh my gosh,
the chisels.
Thank you. Those is completely different, and I do believe that leads to the more tactile feel, even though I'm sanding away all of the like marks and everything. There's still like imperfections in there, and that's what gives you the different feel, I believe. So
no, and I remember that from when we did our episode on the podcast where you were talking about, you want people to come up and pick up the pins and have their hands on them, because it is a unique hand feel a unique texture that you're not necessarily going to see it, but then you pick it up and you kind of feel like what you're talking about, where you're sanding down, but a rasp cuts differently than a turned thing. You're cutting at odd angles. You're having to do different shaping methods. So that's a unique thing. And just the pins look different and it catches your eye. And you're drawn to, like, at first I was looking at some of your other pins this morning, and then this one was kind of sitting to the side. I was like, oh, wait, what is that one? And then just seeing the unique shape and the tapers and textures, it's just different. And it's like I said, once I picked it up, I don't think I put it back down except for literally to get my wallet out, because it's just got that unique feel. And, for me, the colors, because you also pour blanks. And one thing that I know that Daryl's selling, he's also selling pin blanks. Talk about your layered blanks, which, I mean, you may obviously make pins from them, but I've seen other makers recently doing some pins out of your materials as well.
So I had a really good opportunity with Neil Smith, Endless Pins, and Leonardo, where they did a release for the San Francisco Pin Show, and it was based on the Lakers and Neil's idea of being different, like in like in your own way, and so that was really cool. I got to make the blanks for that. Is black, gold, and purple to kind of mimic the Lakers colors. That was my first collab. I've done a lot of individual blanks where it's a short run for Luke at Papa J. I've made some specifically for Sean Newton at Newton Pins. His was specifically the sushi stripes. I made a companion blank for that where it was sushi swirl and then the sushi stripes. And I did the same thing for Luke with his. I had Luke's berries and cream stripe blank, and then a traditional blank and a mint one as well. So
no, and I've actually, as I've gotten into, I've made 3 pins out of Daryl material, and it was just neat to see. We were talking about with some of the previous people already in this, that when you look at a blank from the outside, you don't really know what the inside's going to turn out. And then you see it afterwards, because the one that sticks out to me is the Kestrel. There was one Kestrel blank you had left, and I picked that up, and ever since I made the pin, I've had a couple other people asking, hey, you got any more of that material? Because it catches your eye when you turn it down. Those outer shells, just due to how the blank pouring works, it's just a whole different look once you get down to the core of it. So that was neat. But what other shows do you have on the docket this year?
So I'll be going to Chicago. I'll be sharing a table with Sean Newton there, and I think that we're sharing a table at Dallas. There's a small possibility that I could be going out to San Francisco, but that's like a 30% chance that that's going to happen. So my next 2 and this year are Dallas and Chicago.
And you also, like you mentioned, you got started in ceramics. I noticed a couple of bowls on your table, and I don't know, are those for sale as well, or are those just to display some of your pins?
Yes, the ceramics on my table are for sale. They function as both display and for sale. The pieces are all food safe, so you could use them for food, but a lot of the smaller pieces are made to be a pin holder, so that you have the apparatus to be able to put other things in it, or be able to put your pin in different ways, whichever way you like for it to fit in there. So
no, so if you're going to be here at the show in person and you go up to Daryl's table, don't think of the ceramic as just display items. If you like the look of that could come home with you with your pin as well, or your blanks if you're a maker. Or I know people who buy blanks just for the fact that eventually they're going to find a maker who they want to make a pin out of that material. So you can walk away with a smorgasbord of offerings. But aside from that, you talked about what shows, we'll put a link to your website if for people to look at your things who are not local, who are maybe watching on the stream. what else do you want to share, in terms of just, about your pen making, any new things you have in the works or anything like that?
I mean, I have a couple of ideas that I'm throwing around. I would say that I'm working on a non-toxic way to do kind of a Urushi type of effect, and with that, I'm going to try to have a leather pen sleeve that goes along with it. So I'm going to try to do like a short run of that, maybe 25 pins, and that'll be all I make with that particular not method but combination. And then I'm going to try to start releasing 2 or 3 layered blanks every couple weeks to months, like that. So I know that I already have 2 rainbow ones that someone has requested, so those will be the next ones in line.
No, and that'll be neat just to see the different color combinations that come out of that, kind of incremental release. And then maybe do a poll of what colors would you want to see next, just to do, or a contest of some sort, and the winning whatever. Because Papa J recently did his contest with the art for the thing. That'd be neat to see a Daryl contest of the winner gets to choose the next colors that go in the stacked blank. Because that would be neat to, just a neat way to kind of pass that through. So, we're getting close to the point where the next person will come up. Anything else you want to share, about the show? Anything that you're excited about? With this being your second Arkansas, or have you been here more than 2?
Yes, this is my 4th Arkansas
Okay, 4th.
show.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, just come out to the show. Like, it's a really great time. Lots of different vendors and great people. That's what I would say. Like, come out and enjoy it. It's a good time.
No, and definitely. So, if you're here, check out Daryl's table, check out all the tables. There's all sorts of unique stuff, but definitely go to his table and pick up the pins. These are pins that need to be felt in the hand to truly get the experience. Just be forewarned, though, when you pick it up, you might not put it down, because I know a couple of people now, we probably have collectively 7 or 8 of your pins, because we pick them up and then just like, oh man, now it's stuck. It just has to go home. So,
Yeah. I would also say that, like, even if you don't take one of my pins, like, the feedback that I get helps me develop my pins further, because if someone picks it up and they're like, I really don't like the way that this curve feels, then I'll continue to make that particular pin, but I'll use that information to adjust and make a different variation so that it includes more people. Inclusion is really big with mine. I worked with a lot of students with disabilities when I was a teacher, and so a lot of the thought process is like, how can people that don't write traditionally use my pen? Like, can I make something that's specifically for a different group, something like that? So I love information.
No, and that really speaks true to you because of how you make the pins, where you're able to do that. Because with a lathe, you're limited in what you can do to some extent.
Yes.
For you doing the hand shaping, you could literally shape something for someone who writes at a unique angle or something like that, and then cater that pen specifically, because if one person does it, there's others, and finding a pen that they're going to enjoy using, that's really the ultimate goal.
Yes.
Finding the right fit for the right person. So, any last words before we kind of let you get back to your table and sell some more pins as we wait for our next guest to come up?
No, just thank you for letting me be on it. I appreciate it.
No, this was fun, and as always, it's been a pleasure. So we'll be back here in a couple minutes with our next guest. And I apologize when I say our next guest. I don't know the list. I'm just doing this, and they're showing up in an order that the Pen Club helped organize. So we'll see who comes up next as they walk in the door. And here she is now. It's Lisa Vanness. So we'll mute for a second, and we'll be right back shortly.
Where am I looking?
You're just looking, we got multiple cameras. So we have Lisa Vanness now, who is our next guest. And welcome, Lisa. So, obviously, with this being kind of your home show, being Little Rock based, what are you excited about for the show this year?
People. Always the people.
Yeah. And, with the store being closed, I know a lot of people will come to the show and they'll also make a trip over to the store to see what's there. What are some of the, you made a show ink this year. Tell us the story and the thought behind the show ink.
So I always try to stick to a theme that's related to Arkansas and nature or animals that are in Arkansas because it's kind of close to my heart. I was an outdoorsy kind of girl, came from a redneck kind of family. So this year with the timing, we had a couple of choices that we were looking at, and Skeeter Bite was one of the colors because it was spring. I thought about something related to tornadoes, just because, because it's March in Arkansas, right?
And here's, it's a 20 bottle run? Something
40
like
bottle
40
run.
bottle.
And our photographer drew a mosquito. And so what we wanted was basically the color of the welt on your mosquito bite. I didn't want the color of blood because everybody does that, right? I wanted that the skeeter bite. So I had a couple of locals that I get feedback from. It was going to be this, or there was another one that was a kind of a funny name that was related to nature in Arkansas. And so everybody decided they liked this one. So this is what I went with, and just do a short run for the show. Last year I did Fresh as a Daisy. I just try to do something fun for the locals here whenever I can. It's something extra. Because we're known nationally, I don't want people that are local, because that's where we started, I don't want them to feel left out or forgotten. So.
No, and that's what I like about the show ink, because I've actually had Fresh as a Daisy in a pin for this entire last year, and I use it on a regular basis because it's a great bright green, and that one has the great story too of it's what pollen looks like when it kind of gathers and falls out of the tree. And if you're not from the South, you might not understand that, but if you live in the South, you know exactly what we're talking about with Skeeter Bite or Fresh as a Daisy, where it's supposed to be the greenish hue of pollen as it fights us every year around this time of year.
And what's funny is when we decided to do it, it was like a month ago. When I decided. And then for you guys that are keeping up with the weather, for people not here that are watching, it was below 25 degrees at the beginning of this week, and tomorrow is supposed to be 92. So the mosquitoes will be out. Like, the fact that this happened with the timing that it did, I was like, mosquitoes are going to be out. I still maybe could have done something related to tornado because it's also that time of year. So maybe that's next year.
No, and then you also have a fairly newish, the Possum Pie ink, which,
we did for the holidays.
Yeah. And I just love the little tie-ins where you get that, because I remember last year after getting the Fresh as a Daisy, someone who's in Arizona is like, hey, can you send me a sample of that? Just because it's unique colors, and the fact that you kind of make them in-house and you mix them to, like, this is the whim of the moment. I want to make something that looks like this. And then you make like a small run. I love that. And that's always a unique thing. If you're coming to the Arkansas show, you have the chance to pick that up, because, most of the time they're going to sell out here at the show, and you're not going to be able to get it after the fact. Once it's gone, it's gone, which I love that.
If I know you and I like you, I might make you like a bottle, but I'm not going to go make a whole lot of the more. I don't, because we order the labels in.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to do it. But Fresh as a Daisy, I have inked up too.
Yeah. It's a great color. I mean,
I know, it is.
Yeah.
It's pollen. Next year, I might do something related to tornadoes, because it keeps coming up in my head every year.
Yeah. So we've already had Joe from Gentleman Stationer, who was in here earlier, and we kind of talked about just at a high level on the paper trail. So let's hear from your side of, that experience and getting that launched and how it's kind of going. Because if you're familiar with the YouTube channel, we already did the episode talking about where you were able to go into more detail. But in terms of, on the paper trail and here at the, with kind of your home show, how is that, playing in? And then what are your kind of, from your side, the plans for on the paper trail as you go forward?
Well, here at this show on the paper trail doesn't really affect me because it's something that we may have planned because we do so many events together and we got to know each other and become friends. So it may have taken root in these places, but as far as at this show, our it's each of us as vendors, and on the paper trail is a reflection of the relationship we have as vendors and friends and pen people, and that's all it is. And we also wanted to communicate and educate, just in general, the community. I think that's something we want to continue to do. The behind the scenes things that we laugh about or get irritated about, and the customers don't understand, we want to provide that side for people. We still don't do a lot of it because there's some things that we know we'll get into trouble for. But there's so many things like emails and questions we get over and over and over, the same questions. So it's like, hey, how can we address this? And this podcast is a way to do it. And then still have fun. We wanted to do something different because I've done pen shows for 15 years. Or more than 15 years. And it was a struggle because it was a vintage, it still is. They were created for vintage pens and watches, and we've tried to turn it into something else. We want it to be community, fun, and educational, and that's never what it was intended to be. So we've changed it a lot, and I think we still want to change it some more.
No, but I think that change is in a way for a good thing because, one thing I mentioned when we were talking to Joe, the community aspect, especially of these small shows like Little Rock, is, the show is great. You get to do some shopping, you get to hang out, but the round tables and the unique events where you get to hang out with your pen friends at the bar after, or do those unique community type events, really is what's unique about the small local shows and building that community.
Mm-hmm.
There's people here who I've known for years who are pen friends, but we're going to be able to hang out in person and talk pens and papers and, kind of geek out over what we do in this hobby. And then the people at the next table, they're going to become the next pen friends because we're all going to be like, wait, what do you got over there on that table? I got to go see what you have. But the round tables, I know that's, somewhat of your brainchild where you love that. Talk about how that came to be and how, you look forward to that aspect.
So let's see, that kind of came to be from some evening events that I threw back in the day with the Pen Addict, and they got out of control. So we would have these events in these spaces in the evening after the show, and it was just chaotic, and it got to be where it was so big that nobody could talk to each other. Because originally we did it because a lot of extroverts don't want to make new friends, but they want to talk about pens. So it's like, how can we bring people together? So we threw these it became not little, it became hundreds of people. So then it was like, how can we change it so there's actually interaction? So I think in 2016 or 2017, San Francisco, I had come up with this idea to do kind of speed dating with this. And we tried it in San Francisco, and it was such a hit. And I did it in Philly, Chicago, Baltimore. I can't remember where else. Well, then that got out of control. So we had to quit doing it because there would be a wait to get in. And we wanted experts to be able to educate people, but also people to be able to make friends. And that's how it evolved. And so it turned into Pen Shows After Dark, which a lot of people are able to do because I can't be at every show. So now Pen Shows After Dark is where they kind of give away prizes, but there's no actual activity in a concentrated way. So we had gotten away. I think the reason the roundtables kind of died off was during COVID. Because when we came back, there was so much distancing needed when they first started bringing back the shows that we couldn't do it anymore. So that was how it kind of not died off, but we stopped. And then I had people asking me to bring it back. So if we were going to bring it back, it needed to be at our home show.
No, and that's a unique aspect because, like you said, there's not an official event. The community hanging out is the event, which is kind of unique and cool in its own regards.
So we still have, the hanging out. So it's like, meet me in the bar. Literally, everybody knows once you've been to a pen show that what that really means is bring all your pens and we're going to play.
Yeah. And that's something, I'm looking forward to is last year I kind of found out last moment that I was going to be helping with the table, which was fine. And I was able to call in reinforcements, the next day. This
Sorry.
year no, but that's the thing, people who are willing to jump in because we know enough about something to talk about where other people are going to want to, listen or play, or even if it's just, hey, these are the pins I have with me. Let's talk about them. There's a way. And then this year I'm looking forward because I'm doing the round table on the
Typewriters.
the typewriters, which is the most non-pin thing. But,
It's still analog though.
well, it's analog and it's how I'm using them in my stationary use, how I'm typing out ink swatching or, doing type journaling where I type out a page and glue it in with washi into my journal, things like that. Just a unique way to do more analog. And I'm really looking forward to that because it's a unique thing. And, the one time, because I'm trying to come up to the Arkansas Pen Club every so often, and I happened to pick up a couple of typewriters last time I was here and set them up at the end of Pen Club. And even in that one meeting, multiple people were coming over, looking at them and telling stories and talking. I was like, maybe there's something to
I
this.
finally
And
had
then,
to chase everybody out because
Yeah.
I was hungry.
and then, here I
It was
am.
like 6 o'clock. And I'm like, yeah, I gotta go.
Yeah, that was typewriters 2, 3, and 4. And, we won't talk about the next 10 that have shown up since then. That's just kind of how this works. But, you've got the podcast coming up, and next week you're going to be in California, correct?
Stationery Fest. It'll be the San Francisco Stationery Fest. It'll be their first year to do it. I've done a couple of other stationery events, but this one will be tying stationery and stickers and all that into fountain pens. So I'll be teaching fountain pen basics. So somebody has to teach these people how to stop using their ballpoints, right? Like that's what we need to do. So I'm going to tie it together. I'm going to teach a class on the difference in ballpoints and roller balls and fountain pens and highlighters, and I'm going to let them all try everything. And then I'm going to teach fountain pen basics, which is how to clean the pens, use the pen, what pen might work best for you. So I'm excited about that because it's really not aimed at our pen hobby. It's aimed at the stationery community and the stickers and the stamps and the people who use their Hobonichis with a ballpoint or a roller ball.
No, and that's one thing, because the first time I came to the pen show, I went to the fountain pen basics because I had a fountain pen, but I wasn't, anywhere near. But having someone talk through where it's open, where people are free to ask questions and they don't have to be like, well, I don't want to go in there and ask a question of how to do that. I'm going to look stupid. That's not what it's for. It's for, we all have to learn somehow. And I know you really like the aspect of teaching and spreading the knowledge and the joy of using the pens, either to journal or things like that. So that's always nice to be able to kind of give back to the community as a whole and teach and, spread that knowledge, because then it's a trickle down effect. Because then the next time, well, I learned from Lisa Vanness and here's what she showed me. And then the next person, well, I learned from Derek, who learned from Lisa Vanness. It kind of trickled down and, then the hobby just grows as a whole across the board.
I think the hobby is growing. I think the difference is it is now a hobby where for so long it was just writing instruments you needed, and people went to ballpoints because that's what they were using. It was cheaper, and they didn't think about fountain pens anymore. But now it's like writing itself is a hobby because it's not something you're required to do. And so now it's making a comeback in the sense of people are actually having to put the effort in extra, it's an extra. It's not part of your required day. So that makes it a hobby. And then the fountain pens is kind of an extension of that.
Well, and now you can get pens that fit your personality. If you want a sparkly Bennu with a shimmery double broad nib ink, you can. If you want a black Pilot 912 that has, black ink, you can. So you can kind of customize and let the pen fit your mood or your personality, because let's face it, that's why we all have so many pens, because, you know what? I feel like writing with an orange ink today. Well, I don't have an orange ink in a pen. I need a pen for the orange ink. Oh, no, fresh as a daisy. It's green day. It's, I just got a new pen. I got a new ink, so I need a pen to put, Skeeter Bite in. So that's kind of how it has to trickle down. We all kind of find our ways to, find a new acquisition here or there, but then sometimes just let's not buy anything new. Let's use what we have and find new ways to use it in a different way and stuff like that. But, we're getting close to where we'll have the next person coming up. So any other things to add? You'll be in California next week. You've got the store here. You've got the On the Paper Trail, home show. Looking forward to the roundtables tomorrow. What else is kind of a final thing before we, pause for the next guest to arrive?
I think everybody just needs to stay tuned because there's something new around the corner, always.
No.
And, you've been interviewing us, but have you bought any new pens?
I've only bought 3, and it's, we're halfway through the first day. I bought a Newton, which Sean Newton
Turn the
posted.
tables, right?
Sean Newton posted a picture of this green prospector like 2 weeks ago. And I talked about it on one of my streams. I was like, man, that's going to be a hard one to pass up. And then I was like, man, well, maybe there's only going to be one. So I actually texted him before the show. I was like, hey, Sean, set that green one aside because I think that one needs to come home with me. And then I just had Daryl here from D Squared Arts. I picked up one of his pins today. And then, I got the Toffee Nautilus from Vanness yesterday and things like that because it's titanium and it's toffee colored and I wanted it. So that's just kind of how, sometimes it goes. But I'm looking forward. I think the Skeeter Bite is going to go in the D Squared Arts pin. I need to grab a nib to put in it. So that'll be coming up. But any final words before we have our next guest who's walking into the room come up?
No, I'm ready to see what Sean has to say next.
Okay, well, we'll mute here for a second, and then we'll have our next guest, Sean Newton, here in just a moment.
Okay.
So we'll be back in a second.
Bye, y'all.
Okay, so we have our next guest, which is none other than Mr. Sean Newton. So welcome, Sean.
Hi.
So how many years now have you been vending at Arkansas?
Since 2012 or 2013.
That's
I
crazy.
started making pins January 6, 2012. So it might have been that first year. No, the first year I had some pins that were commissions, nothing for sale. They just gave me a table, said, just hang out.
Yeah.
So 2013 was my first year at Arkansas.
How has it changed in all this time?
Oh God, I don't know. I mean, there's less watches, different people. Some are the same. A lot of different faces have come and gone.
No, and we were just talking. Lisa was joking with me, like, "Have you bought a pen?" I was like, "Well, I was texting Sean because I saw a picture he posted 2 weeks ago. I was like, I think I need that pen. It's an evil ploy where you post pictures of the pens that are going to be coming, and it's like it kind of gets stuck in your head. But what do you? I know that your Prospector is what you mostly brought this year. What is that about the Prospector that's just so cool? I mean, I love the shape, and it's just, well, I just mean, that's such a draw. I mean, it's so unique in the focus that, it catches your eye.
I don't know. People like them and take cool photos of them and share online, and other people get them and like them and just keep sharing. And I mean, they're fun to make. I think they're nice to hold. I think the shape rests against your hand nicely. The grip and all the front end is still round, but the back end's got the triangular bit on it. But I mean, I'm just really glad people like them.
No, and do all the Prospectors come with the ebonite feeds? Is that or just certain ones?
All of them. In the last few years, I've been doing that. It's so that I can get the top of the nib lined up with one of the points on the barrel.
Gotcha.
It's just a visual thing. Before I was sanding the front of the barrel down when I had used the plastic Yovo feeds, so that I could put the section in and just eventually get it to line up with one of the points.
No, that makes sense to solve a look problem by doing the ebonite, because I actually had never had an ebonite feed till the Prospector I bought last year at Arkansas, which you see the theme. You're creating a problem for me, Sean. I'm buying a Prospector each year I come to Arkansas, so I don't know how sustainable that's going to be.
I'm not going to complain about it.
But I really appreciated the ebonite feed, even with tiny writing like I do. It just, the flow, because we were talking about with Lisa, I've had Fresh as a Daisy in that pen for the last year, and it gets used on a regular basis just because it's a great ink. And then that one was the matte black Prospector. Yeah. But so, you've been vending here forever. It's your home show.
Mm-hmm.
What are you excited about for this year? Are you glad that we're back at the hotel, kind of where it got started and stuff like that?
This was where we were at when I got into the pen club and into making pens and all that. Yeah. It's a really nice location. It's a nice spot. It's a great hotel.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be back here.
Yeah. It's this, when I drove up, I was like, wait, this is actually the hotel the first time I came to the pen show.
Yeah.
The one year I
vended,
vended, I was like, oh wait, this looks familiar.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. Cause that's actually when we met, when I bought my first Newton, my Eastman.
Yeah. The blue one?
Yeah. How do you remember that?
Because you sent it back to me because you needed
that's right.
a different nib or something put in.
Yeah. It was originally a Bach, and we realized that, since you're just doing Yovo,
I made it a Yovo section.
Yeah. Made it into a Yovo, but lots of different options, because you have a bunch of models. And when we talked about it on the podcast interview I did, you've kind of scaled down some of the models, and you're focusing on the ones that are just more popular, more people are drawn to.
Well, also the stuff that's more unique to me, the Prospector, the Shinobi, the Knickerbocker, and then I'm still gonna do the more like the classic shapes, the Orville and the Center, and just not as often, not as much.
Now, in Daryl, we had him talking a little bit ago how you kind of dragged him into this to make material, and now he's into making pins. Yeah. So just, how neat is that? Because y'all are table mates often at different shows. You're both live in the same area.
Together.
Yeah, you went to college. You're able to travel to shows. So how is it night? How is that having your travel pin buddy now, where you can both travel? Have a travel buddy to the shows as you're going to whichever ones, and then we're table neighbors here at Chicago, so we drive up to Chicago together. Last year was the first year we did that. It's great. It's great. We're old friends, so he's an easy travel mate. Yeah. And then, if you buy a Newton pen, and I actually did not get one this year, I don't think, because I didn't need one. You have the pen sleeves that you're sewing, or your mom's helping you sew.
My mom made some for me, because she knew I was kind of strapped for time. I didn't. Yeah, it's been a busy year.
No, but one thing I noticed of some of the newer pins you still had at the table last I looked when I was there earlier is some of the new ebonites. So are you getting new materials? Because some of those, you were talking about them earlier, like the different ebonites that you're using and making
two
out
German
of.
companies, and there's a Japanese company that I use. NYH and SEM are German, and then Nico out of Japan. And they all have wildly different like colors and color combos, and yeah, they're all great materials.
Now, when you're making a pin, like for this green one, for instance, did you plan to do the offset color ring in advance, or do you just kind of start with the color and then see how you want to accent it as you go?
Yeah, I'll make a bunch of rings and then I'll go, oh, what'll go good with this? And then I'll change my mind 15 times. And then at some point I just kind of just stick them all together. Yeah.
Yeah, because there was a one we were talking about last night that someone got recently. The was it the cheeseburger? What it was called? Pin Xer is their name, and they posted a picture. It was a prospector.
Oh, the brown.
Yeah, the brown.
Yeah.
Where it kind of looks like a cheeseburger when it's stacked. I think they were saying.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, they were calling it. I think it was Chad from the Pin Club who was talking about. Oh yeah, they were talking about it looks like a cheeseburger because of the brown the brown material. So it's similar to this green one with the brown and then the different ring in the middle that has it.
Yeah,
gives it that look.
That one had the same the ring, didn't it? The brown one.
I didn't look at the picture that close, so I'll have to go back and look. I was more concerned with making sure you saw my text that I needed this green pin.
Yeah, I thought you meant the other green pin that I just finished. I forgot that I even had that one.
See, I remembered. So, you're doing something right with your social media that you're posting it in just enough time where it's getting that intrigue going. Because I know one of my friends who happens to be in the audience, she was able to get, what'd you get, a pink prospector, I think? Yeah. Who, as you post online, because if you're not familiar, Sean's pins, when he posts them online, if you're wanting one, when they hit that store, you better be ready to get it because they're going to sell quick because
they usually do. Yeah. Thankfully.
And that's a great problem to have, but and you're able to, because you do a lot of shows, but you're also able to every so often, hey, I have some pins done. I'm just going to list them up and do a kind of a batch release, which is nice because then, if people are not able to travel to a show or see them in person, they have just as much of a chance as if they were at the show and they were the first person at the table to see it versus, seeing what's there because, it's a unique pin and just a cool way, and they, like you said, they feel great in the hand. There's something about them when you're using them. And I don't know if it's just me, but I like to hold the cap in my offhand when writing with it because there's something tactile with that triangle shape.
Yeah.
But so, you're here, you've been here for many years. That's your home show. Anything special this year? Are you like the round tables or anything? Are you doing a round table or are you just attending and
I think I'm
enjoying?
just attending. I'm pretty sure I'm just attending.
Yeah.
If I'm supposed to do a table, I'm going to try to get out of it because I'm a little under the weather this year. So, we've got I've got a new 8-year-old in my life and she brought something home from school. So I've got a little cold, I think is all it is. But
yeah, I've got the allergy thing going. We're talking about the fresh as a daisy, and the skeeter bite, all these inks that are coming to fruition this time of year as the weather goes back and forth. But, what other shows do you have on your docket this year?
Chicago in end of April, beginning of May, then DC and San Fran in August, and Dallas in September. Those are those 4 plus this one are my 5 a year.
Nice. So, if you're going to be at any of those shows, definitely check out Sean's work if you haven't seen it. He's been doing this, he's one of the OG pin makers. So you've probably seen his stuff if you've gone to a show, but if not, he always has new stuff and new materials, and, something unique that's going to catch your eye to either the great joy or the terrible fear of your wallet as you're like, man, that's just, I got to take that with me. But, we're getting to where I think the next person is going to be coming up. So any kind of last words or just what you're excited about for people who are going to be possibly coming tomorrow to the show?
I hope they have fun wherever they get. I never twist anyone's arm at my table. Pick up, play with the pins, check them out. If you don't want anything, that's fine. If you want something, awesome. My pins, I like this line. My pins come with the long as I'm alive lifetime warranty, and it travels with the pin. Every now and then I'll see something for sale on Slack or something like that. It's like, hey, my warranty travels with the pin. If you ever need anything, holler at me. It's important to me that my work stays well maintained, and if I can help with that, I'm happy to help with that.
No, and that's great. And just one note, because a story I was talking to Sean because I had heard it before. If you get a prospector and you feel a little rough spot, I'm going to switch to this, and you feel a little rough spot thinking, oh, there's a burl. It's actually an etched logo, but it blends in so well with a lot of the material. So if you feel that, don't try and sand it
Yeah,
off
don't
like
sand it
the
off.
person who thought it was a mar and
blemish,
tried
yeah.
sanding it on a special edition prospector in the past. So just wanted to give that kind of PSA so that you don't ruin a beautiful piece of
Well, I
art.
could sand it back down and buff it and redo
Right,
it,
but
but
if people know in advance, then you don't have to
Yeah,
resand it back
yeah.
down and refinish it. So, Sean, it's always a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
You know, this is fun. I hope this has been a unique format this year that hopefully we'll be able to keep doing.
Yeah,
Since
this is
a
great.
neat spotlight for people watching on the YouTube or the Twitch, or people who might be coming tomorrow is kind of a sneak preview of what they have in store.
Yeah.
So, yeah, as always, we'll go to mute for now, and then we'll be back with our next guest when they arrive, whoever it ends up being. So we'll be back shortly. Okay, we have our next guest here, who is Craig Bond, who is part of the Austin Pen Club and the Penguy Austin. Is that correct?
That's it.
So, welcome, Craig. So, kind of tell us, and people watching on the stream, people in the audience here in person at the 2026 Arkansas Pen Show, how many years have you been coming to Arkansas now as a vendor?
I think
started coming in 2017, 2018 for a year or two, just as a buyer, just somebody coming in, buying some pins. One of my best friends that's been doing pin shows since 1992 offered me half a table in, I think, 2018, 2019. And I took half a table and just been hooked ever since. That was my first pin show as a vendor. I do about 4 a year now, but I just love the Arkansas show. It's one of my favorite shows. I tell everybody in our club and everybody I talk to how great the show is, because people are just so friendly and outgoing, and it's a fun show to come to.
No, and my camera went crazy here, but we have in the chat someone you know, Mr. Persons Bond, Craig Bond, as he is put in the chat. So, tell us what are some of the most unique pins you brought this year? So if someone's watching this tonight and they're going to be coming here tomorrow, what are some of the new things you have or something unique that they might be able to see at your table?
Something that I've started doing maybe 3-4 years ago was Japanese pocket pins from the 60s and 70s. And they're small, short pins. And they're designed so that they're little small pins. And then when you post it, it becomes a full-size pin. And so I've got these from the 60s and 70s, Pilot, Platinum, Sailor. And I've got some people that have bought from me in the past, and they come back the next year and say, hey, I got a pin from you last year. I love it. I want to get another one, or I've got a friend who's interested in getting one. So probably the Japanese pocket pins. And then I also do Mont Blancs, but I do what I call affordable Mont Blancs. I've got some Mont Blancs from the 70s that are just great pins, and they're very affordable. You get 14 karat gold nibs and get just a little bit of bounce in them. So they add a little character to your handwriting, your signature.
No, and actually we first met last year when I bought a Diplomat arrow from you. That was my gateway Diplomat. And since then I've added a couple others to the collection, traded some vintage, and we did some difference, and we were able to work a deal. And it's actually a fine nib, and I almost always use extra fine. And for some reason, that fine nib is still in there. It works. It's one of those fines that writes more on the extra fine side. So it was a great combo for me, but that was a unique thing, because then you get to come back the next year and wait, I remember I bought when I saw the list of names of who I was going to be talking to, I was like, wait, I recognize that. That's who I got my Diplomat from. So you kind of establish that relationship. So you become repeat customers. And then the unique aspect of, like, David, who's in the chat, or friend Ann, who's here from the San Antonio Pen Club, where you're seeing the bubbles cross, where the different clubs who are able to do combined events in that region. And then here we all are, me from Nashville, you from Austin, her from San Antonio, in Little Rock for this show. And that's where it kind of brings people together. It's just within that driving range where you get to come and hang out and have that community aspect and, do some shopping, but also get to hang out with other pen friends and people.
The first show I went to, gosh, I had a list of like 20 or 30 things that I wanted, and I knew I wasn't going to get 30, but it's like, well, if I don't get this one, I've got some backup stuff. And so that first show, I had that long list, and every show got shorter and shorter. I'm going to tear up a little bit here. That got shorter, but the friends I wanted to see got longer and longer and longer. And so after a while, I wasn't going to a pen show to buy stuff. I was going to a pen show to see friends from all over the country that I would only see every 6 months or maybe once a year.
No, and that's actually something that has been a common theme in talking to some of the people so far. The community aspect, especially in these smaller regional shows, it's like coming home. You get to see the people, you might not know them, but you might recognize them. Like, wait, I know that guy. I bought that pin. Or, you kind of, and then over time, it's not that guy. It's Craig.
Yeah.
And because we had someone in the chat asking, so do you have, so you're Craig Bond with the Austin Pen Club. Do you sell online as well, or do you just do shows?
Pretty much just shows. I'm getting ready probably to do some on eBay, but it's just because I've managed to get a couple really high-end pins, and they're just not suitable for pin shows because of they're so high-end, and don't have the space to really present those pins like they should. And we talk about old friends. I wanted to mention Sam Highsmith from the Arkansas show. Visit with him every time in Dallas and Little Rock, and we would sit and talk for 20 minutes. And he passed away a couple days before the show last year. And so he's somebody that a lot of us miss, and I just want to mention Sam's name.
No, and that's the other part of this is that community aspect where you have that opportunity to kind of memories, you know,
Yes.
remember old times, but then also develop new memories and, you know, new relationships and friendships. So it's that community aspect, like we're talking about, where you get that chance, you know, because for you, I was looking at your table earlier and just looking at what's there, and I was like, oh man, because I remember seeing some of those. I think it's the Pilot, the predecessor to the E95, that silver checker, you know, the
Yes.
pocket pen. I was like, oh, because that's one of those. I'm like, I'm not quite there yet because I'm not the most pocket pen person, but every time I see one of those, I'm like closer to like, oh.
It's
So
surprising how many times I'll have somebody and they'll buy like a nice black Pilot Elite, you
Yeah.
know, which was again the father of the E95, and sure enough they'll come back the next year and say, hey, I'm ready for, you know, one of the fancy ones or something. And so it's kind of, you know, people kind of graduate to that, or they realize how much they enjoy writing with those pens, and they come back. And I try to have something eclectic, something weird, something unusual on my table. So I'll see some weird pens. It's like, hey, somebody's going to have fun looking at those, or maybe, you know, wanting to buy one of those. So I always try. I have people come up and say, like, you've always got such diverse stuff on your table. I love coming by and seeing that.
yeah, one thing I appreciate about your table is that you have the way you have on your trays alphabetical, where you can look through brand alphabetically. Because, you know, sometimes it's like people will group stuff together, but I like being able to visually look down and go, oh, that's the Aurora section. Oh, we're over to the Mont Blanc, or oh, we're down to the Pilot. So you just a different way of getting that visual look.
You've got somebody that's a Montegrappa or a Stipula fan, they can immediately find it on my table because, oh, here's the S's, here's
Yeah.
the Stipula, here's the Montegrappas. And so I try to make it easy for them, and I usually have on the tags, you know, is it an 18 karat gold nib? Is it a fine? Is it a medium? So they don't have to search and scrutinize the pen. It's like right there for them.
No, and that's actually a nice aspect, because especially on some of the older pens, might still write fine, but, you know, age happens and it might have a little, the nibs are still going to function great, but they might not look as easy to read, or as we all get older, our eyes are not as easy to read the
Exactly,
tiny markings on some of those.
And I've got some really nice pins, Mont Blanc's Pelicans, that they're roller balls, and that's not for everybody. I put a little rubber band around the barrel just so kind of pre-warn somebody, or somebody saying, I'm looking for a nice roller ball for a friend that doesn't use fountain pens. And they can find that roller ball super quick and super easy.
Yeah, and I think that's rollerballs are kind of like the gateway to you ballpoint, but then rollerball is that gateway because you can kind of get the fountain pen flow out of a ballpoint, and then if you like that rollerball, your next step's going to be a fountain pen, you know, and then you might have the opportunity through you getting like a matching pair. Oh, I need the fountain pen that matches this rollerball, and then, you know, you can kind of put the two and two together. So I had someone ask in the chat here, are you going to any other shows this year?
I normally do St. Louis, I do Dallas, and I've recently started going to Columbus.
Okay.
And those are great for me. I've got a friend again that we go together. He goes to like 8 or 9 shows, Joe Lowe, during the year, but I'm able to tag along on 4 of those with him on that. So.
No, and that's one thing I appreciate about vendors is, you know, you have to do something that you want to go to shows and sell, but you also have to live your life outside of going to shows and selling. So it's neat that, you know, most of the vendors know in advance, okay, I'm going to be at these shows. And that's why I like asking the question, because if someone wants to see what you have to offer, they know, oh, yeah, I'm going to that show too. I'm going to have to go look for Craig's table and, you know, see that the listing where, oh, I'm in the Stipula section, you know, and find maybe their next vintage pen. Because you're mostly vintage. You have some like used, newer, but mostly older stock, right?
I mean, I've got modern Pelicans, I've got modern Mont Blancs, but I've got vintage Mont Blancs too. And a lot of the modern pens I have tend to be last year through maybe 10 years ago. And then I've started branching more into the Japanese pens of also modern sailors, modern pilots, vanishing points, stuff like that.
Yeah.
As well as stuff that's 10 years old, 15 years old, all the way back to the 60s and 70s with those pocket pens.
No, and that's a great mixture, because someone can walk up and they can literally look through time and go, oh, do you want vintage? Because, you know, I had vintage pins, and I think last year you ended up with most of the vintage pins I had left because it wasn't really my thing. I didn't enjoy using them, and I wanted them to find a good home. And then I was able to get the Diplomat, which I enjoy using. So that's where it's nice to be able to give a second life, because I'm sure those have gone on and either sold somewhere, will be sold. So it's that ebb and flow of what your preferences are in the pin hobby.
And I'm planning on adding a little section, kind of throwback to vintage pins, because that's how I started out at shows, was vintage pins strictly, because I'd go out in the wild and find them, and I learned to repair them and then turn around and sell them at shows. And I kind of got away from that, and I miss some of that. I know I have people come by and say, hey, do you have anything vintage? And I'd like to have some old lever fillers, some real classics,
Yeah.
like some Schaefer lever fillers, some old Parker duofolds and stuff like that. And so I'm planning on doing that section again on that. So
No, and that's great because, more vintage pins are that unique thing that it's either where you start or where you come back around to. You everybody in this hobby makes their pass through vintage land. Because I started out, when I was new in the hobby, oh, I found this one pin. Well, wait, I can go on eBay and find these vintage pins. And then you kind of go to a point, you're like, well, okay, I got some wins and I got some loses, some losses. And what do you get?
I learned my
you
lesson
don't
on
know.
a couple pins.
Right. Because actually you ended up, one of the Watermans I had ended up, I don't know if you remember, it was that unique water, I think it was the Lady Waterman that had the unique converter that one happened to have the converter with it,
Yes,
which
yep.
if you didn't have that, you couldn't find them, or
Yep,
cartridge, whatever.
Exactly.
And I was like, I've had this for years. I'm not using it. It needs a new home, So even if it becomes a parts pin for someone else, it's that unique way of being able to find a new life for it.
Well, it's funny you kind of mention that, because I get people kind of say a little nerdy when I say this, but it's like I go out and hunt for pins in the wild with a good friend of mine, and we just enjoy doing that for the day. And, we'll find some old Schaefers, some old Parkers, and bring them home and fix them up. And it's kind of like funny. I kind of look at them as like orphans. These have been abandoned,
Yeah.
and nobody loves them anymore. And let's get them fixed up, get a haircut and a shower and looking nice, put some new clothes on, and let's find a new home for them that somebody will enjoy having them around. So it's kind of fun to see, somebody new to pins kind of see that joy of finding something that's 80, 90 years old, and it's going to bring them a lot of joy.
The
in the
one
future.
vintage pin I still have, I remember when I first was using it's a Schaefer Imperial, and I was like, you kind of think, what else has this pin written in its duration? Because I'm also recently getting into vintage typewriters, and you kind of have that same thought of, wait, this typewriter from 1940, what is it typed in its time frame? What, the history, and you kind of get that, that curiosity of it would be a neat story to know, what could have been, and then because you're determining the future of what it will be, so you get that nice mixture of what both sides.
It reminds me too, I was repairing a little old Parker duofold, and a friend in my pin club said, hey, I've got a pin I need you to repair. And they ended up being identical pins, and like, well, that's kind of a coincidence. Then I got to look into the date codes, and they were made the exact same time. And it's like, these pins parted ways decades and decades ago, and here they're back together. And it's just kind of neat.
Yeah.
What happened? Where did they go? How did they get back here? Who have they seen? So it's just kind of, just intriguing, some stuff like that happens.
No, and and those are the kind of stories that you might not even think about. And apologies, let me fix my camera here. The tracking on some of these things, they keep turning off where I'm trying to show both of us at once. Get this moved over.
You're the good looking one, so let's keep it on you.
Well, it's fighting me. It's AI, man. I am not an AI person, and it has it built in. And it's like, oh, I want to track you. I want both of us. There's a reason why I have it like that. So, you already talked about what other shows you're going to. You talked about what you have. So we're getting close to where the next person is going to be coming in. So any final kind of thoughts on Arkansas? So I know you said the community aspect, getting to see your friends, hang out with your friends. Any final things about this year or stuff that you want people to know about Arkansas, since it is that kind of community grounded show that, I think we all appreciate?
I'm a good person to ask, because I'm the the ambassador to Texas for the Arkansas show because I push it so much with our club and everywhere else. And it's such a fun, they have so many seminars for beginners, for experienced people, stuff about repairing pins, just using pins. Lisa Vanness and ink, she's a wealth of knowledge on that kind of stuff. And everybody's just so friendly. And even if you're not into fountain pens, come and look because there's stuff for people doing planners and journals and there's paper. And there's not just fountain pens, there's other stuff too. So even if you're thinking about getting a nice ballpoint or something like that, come visit and meet some great people and have a fun time and just come out and spend a couple hours with us.
No, and I think, there's the stationery hobby as a whole. You've got people who are traditionally planner. You've got people who are fountain pen. Those worlds are colliding. So people who are in the planner world, they might be the new person coming, wait, there's a pen show? I've heard about fountain pens, but they've never gone there. And then they can go to a beginner class that Lisa's teaching or someone like that. Or they can come walk around and look at all the offerings and go, oh, wait, what's this cool little pocket pen there? That looks unique. And then, they might walk away with their first fountain pen, and it might be a vintage fountain pen. And that might be, what they use. That might be their one and done pen. You never know.
Right.
So it's a unique thing. And I love that the variety of vendors and what, you all have to offer because you're all going to have different things. So looks like our next.
We're all friends too. I mean, we support each other. Some guy will come by and ask me about a pen. It's like, I don't have those, but I know who does. And we all support each other. So it's not like cutthroat. We're all out there making the better weekend for each of us.
No, and that's the one thing I appreciate too, because oh, I don't have that, but Danny might over at his table, or oh wait, I saw so and so, because as you're setting up, the vendors go see what else, because you like this, you like playing with the toys, you're selling the toys, but you like to see whatever what toys what's the next table over have? You got anything cool, something new? So Craig, it's been a pleasure. As always, and I'm sure I'll see you next year at Arkansas as well, if not before.
All right.
So it's been a pleasure.
This fun and really relaxed. I really like that, and I enjoy it. And David Persons had great stuff to say about you, and he was right on the nose.
No, that's great to hear. I appreciate it.
Have a great weekend.
So we'll be back here in a second with our next guest. We'll let Craig get out, and we'll let Danny come up, and then we'll continue. Okay, and then up next we have Danny Fudge of the Right Pen, and actually I met Danny last year. He took my Schaefer Imperial and fixed a broken lever, and it came back, and it's been wonderful. So Danny, welcome.
Thank you.
And kind of give people who are watching or who are here in the audience, if they don't know you, what do you do? What do you do as the Right Pen? What do you offer? You do repairs, you sell. Kind of give the Danny Fudge Right Pen Cliff Notes version.
Okay. I live in Papillion, Nebraska, which is metropolitan Omaha. I used to live in Russellville, and I started the Arkansas Pen Club. And from that, we recreated the Arkansas Pen Show. There had been a pen show a number of years before, and it had just stopped happening. So we started the Arkansas Pen Club and then we started the Arkansas Pen Show as a extension of the club. What I do is primarily I repair vintage fountain pens. I fix pens for people all over the world. Most of what I do is through the mail. I have a little shop in my basement, and I do three shows a year: Little Rock, St. Louis, and Dallas. I am a pastor of a church, So 3 Sundays a year is about all I want to be gone. And I'm getting too old to drive home on Saturday nights from anywhere to Omaha, Nebraska.
Yeah. No, and that makes sense. And if you can pull your microphone a little bit closer to, or there you go. Because not being into the vintage world as much, I appreciate, and we were just talking with Craig, how vintage pins get a second life. You kind of think about where they could have been, what they could have done, and then, someone who's new to the hobby, they might be going and buying vintage pins, and they're like, "Hey, this isn't working." Because I saw a post the other day online, someone who was really new, they'd found a lever filler and they didn't know how to take it apart to put in the cartridge and converter. So, you get kind of things like that where you get the aspect of people who are new and they might not know what they don't know, and then you're able to help guide or fix or give those old pins a new life and a new existence so they can keep growing the hobby and be put to use. That's what they're meant for, is to be used.
I think vintage fountain pens are overlooked because people don't know what to do with them. When they run out of ink, they say, "What do I do?" Vintage to me is, the best of all pens, because I like things that have a history, and they're utilitarian, they're jewelry. In some cultures, they're a status symbol. I started repairing pens because I inherited some pens through my grandmother that I think may have been my father's, who died when I was 2 years old, so I never knew him. And so I took these to Mike Vanness at the Vanness Pen Shop, and I said, "Can you make these write with me? Because I would like to write with the pen my people have written with." And he said, "No, but I can show you how." And so,
That's a very Mike answer.
very much so. And so we did it, and I started looking for pens to fix. People ask me sometimes, is it hard to learn how to repair pens? And I tell them the learning curve is not long, but it's steep. I have 2 chairs beside where I'm fixing pens, and I invite people to sit and learn how to do it. I had one lady today who said, "I thought about doing this myself, but I don't have all the tools." So I gave her the stuff, and I said, "Okay, do it like this, do it like this, do it like this." And she fixed her own pen. And I usually do that a few times at a show. And one little boy came up, he had bought a pen, and I helped him fix his pen. And his dad came over and said, "How much do I owe you?" I said, "For what?" He said, "Fixing my son's pen." I said, "I didn't fix it. He did, And see, I'm in this for the friends and the pens. The money is just helps me buy more stuff. I do sell pens at the shows. I don't have an online sales kind of thing. And my pen partner, Perry Kearney, he does all the selling. And I just sit there and fix pens for however many hours, however many days that I'm there. But it's nice. Somebody comes up and they bring you a pen and they hold it in their hands and they say, "This was my grandfather's. Can you fix it?" Of course, there's no pressure there when you're pulling out tools and doing things, and they ask questions, and it brings a lot of joy for them to be able to write with the pen that their family's written with.
Yeah, especially like when they know the provenance of the pen. Like you were saying, you wanted to write with the pen that you believe was possibly your father's, or somebody in your family.
Correct.
And you wanted to use that, and then to be able to not just because people have to learn, or the art will fall by the wayside eventually. So
True.
that's great that you're willing to not just you're like you said. So if someone doesn't have the tools or they have the fear, you're saying, there's not really that kind of entry you're thinking of. You're thinking that it's going to be harder than it is. Here's the tools. Let me show you how to do it. So then if it happens again or you find another pen, you know what to do.
And start with very cheap pens, because any pen repairer has drawers of broken pens that they learned on.
Yeah.
If you have a very sentimental pen, or if you have a pen that has moderate value, you might get it professionally restored.
Yeah. Well, and that's like the Schaefer Imperial that I had you fix last year. I like to tinker, but I also have too many hobbies, and that's one that I didn't want to go into the level because I really liked how it wrote, and I didn't want to risk ruining it.
I
Because
understand.
you get to that point where I'm all about, because I'm recently into vintage typewriters, and I
Yes.
have no problem taking those apart because I have two that I'm going to combine into one that I'm quarter of the way through. You know, I get them broken down. It's like, man, I got to put these back together into one that works. But
And they're mostly metal.
right,
Not
well,
plastic.
this one's one of the plastic body 60s,
Oh.
and that's why I have two, because half of the body on this one was broken, half of the other body on this one. One of them, the mechanics works, but it was in the mostly broken body. So
Right.
it's a transplant of whole things, but
Sure.
I know my limits, and I didn't want to ruin that pen because I just loved how it wrote so much. And you get to that point where, because when I first got into pens, I bought a bunch of Esterbrooks and some of that kind of stuff, and I learned enough to like replace a sack and whatnot. And then I realized I also learned this is not for me. I'd much rather give it to somebody who likes doing the repair part of this more,
Right.
or that's their stick. I'd rather support them as their small business endeavor
Right.
and put my efforts to somewhere else and just use it once it's done.
Sure.
And that was what was great with you is I've kind of had a package come. What is coming from Nebraska? And then I was like, oh wait, it's my pen. That kind of thing, which I appreciated. So, you talked about you go to different shows and you have your sales partner who does the sale and you're kind of tag team
He meets me there. He's a friend of mine from Arkansas.
yeah. And that's great to be able to travel because that's a common thing. Like Sean Newton was talking about, he travels with Daryl when they go do shows together, and you kind of, or like what Craig was just talking about, where you're going to pin shows. Yeah, you might buy some pins, but you're going to see your friends and hang out with the people who you have those relationships with,
Right.
who you might only see at pin shows, but you get to reconnect, have dinner with them, talk about new toys. Hey, I found this pin, or
Oh, yeah.
oh man, I got this pin that came in, and they said, oh, it'll be an easy fix, and it was not an easy fix. The war story
Sometimes.
aspect. But you since you've been you have a unique thing since you helped form what essentially has become this show. How have you seen it change over time? I mean, just to do something like this is something I kind of had the ideas. I think this would be a unique way to kind of give back to the show.
Yeah.
So as you see the show growing and changing over time, how is that neat to see? Because you kind of helped get it started. Now it's changed over the years.
As I said, there was a pin show in Arkansas years ago, and it was privately run, I would say, and then it just no more. And so the thing that I enjoy about the pin show was giving people an outlet to sell their things, to buy some things, and to just enjoy each other's company. The change I've noticed in all of the shows is that there are a lot more young people coming to the pin shows. And whereas most of them years ago were 80% vintage pins, now we have people who come with modern pins. And the newest, I guess, interaction of it is you have people who are making pins. And there's nothing wrong with kit pins, but these people who, many of them are molding their own resins, turning their own pins, and doing some really, really beautiful things. And a lot of the younger people enjoy the flash and the color of those cartridge and converter. And some of them, Sean Newton, he's making self-filling pens.
Yeah.
Not just a cartridge or something.
Yeah.
So he's doing excellent work.
The maker world, it's because as I've started to dabble into that new hobby, it changes your view of the hobby itself. Because once you learn the mechanics of how things work, and okay, let me start with cartridge converters, but eventually I want to make a piston filler, and then before too long we'll see people making modern lever fillers. I think that'll be
We
the
have
next
those.
thing.
There is a guy who does replica pins.
Okay.
Of all the vintage stuff. Very great. He even makes his own nibs. And
Wow.
He's probably not doing it any longer, but he was excellent. Another thing I've noticed about the pin shows is you have people who bring paper. and people who bring wax stamping.
Yeah.
And so it's opening up, and a lot of the younger people like that kind of thing.
Well, and I was just talking, I mentioned this with Craig. You've got the planner community, you've got the pin community. They're all in the stationary bubble, but the Venn diagram is slowly starting to cross of planner people who they might see someone with a fountain pen and like, wait, what's that? And then they might go get their first pen. It might be a Twisby, it might be a Pilot, it might be a vintage Waterman. Who
Sure.
knows?
Right.
But then that's going to keep the hobby going. And then, when I first got into pins, I wrote on Rhodia paper. That's just what I used. Now I've got a whole bag sitting next to me of 18 different types of paper because I like, for me, I want to test the paper because I write with tiny nibs, extra fine or smaller normally. Well, which paper is going to work best with how I write? Because I can customize it to what I enjoy using.
Yeah.
And that's a unique aspect, finding the right, because with vintage pins, especially, if they adapt to your writing or ones that have seen things and, they've adapted, and then being able to come here and get a nib tuner to, sprice it up or get it custom just to how you like it. That's a unique thing. And that's going to keep people coming back and engaging with the community and the hobby, because you can find whatever wants for you. It's kind of like the Burger King version of Pin Club. You can find your pen, your ink, your paper combo that's going to be what works for you.
Exactly. The nib, the pen itself, the nib, the paper, and the ink is where all of it concerts together.
Yeah, you combine the big three to the right combination. And then for a lot of us, it's the right combination for the orange ink. And then I need the right combination for the blue and the black and the purple and whatever the ink of the day is.
Sure.
But that's the great part. And, it's like the Veterans Pen Turning Group, who was the first one I talked to today.
Oh, yeah.
They're doing great things
Yes,
to use the hobby in a way of therapy that continues on. And it's kit pens, but that kit pen, you still need to write. I mean, I love fountain pens, but there's also times where a fountain pen's not what I want to use. I need a ball pointer, a roller ball, and those kit pens, and having something like that gives back. It just ties in a unique way that we can all get benefit.
Absolutely.
We're all going to need a ballpoint pen to write on that bad receipt paper at the restaurant or something like that, where a fountain pen is not going to work, or, finding the right tool for the job. It's kind of like when repairing or making, you have to have the right tool for the right purpose. And it's not always fountain pen.
True.
And you want to have the options. So, as we're kind of getting to where we'll have the next person coming up, any last words, this year, anything you're excited about, or anything, how many repairs have you done so far today on the, we're early in the show.
Yeah, today hasn't been incredibly busy with repairs, but I probably restored or tuned or cleaned or whatever, maybe 30 pins.
And, as you were saying, vintage is still at the shows. It's just maybe that's probably more of a Saturday thing, I would think.
You never know.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've had people lined up at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
No.
And we do what we can do. And I take some home if they want something a little bit extra special, or if they want something that I didn't bring all the stuff for.
Well, and that's how mine was, and I appreciated that, because that's when I got the surprise when it showed up in the mail and it was, hey, your pin's done, where I sent it because it needed a lever. And, if you don't have the right stuff or the right tools, I want the pin to work. So I didn't mind letting it go to Nebraska and then come back eventually, and that worked out great. So,
and if it's going to take an hour or an hour and a half to do a pin, I need to take it home.
Yeah.
Because I've got people coming.
Yeah. You want to be able to help as many people as possible. And sometimes the best way to help is for you to take it when you can help everybody, because when you're sitting at your workshop and you can reach up with the muscle memory and grab the right tools and the right things to fix it, it's going to be much quicker. And, you're focused on that one pin versus, wait, there's a line over there, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
So,
and people talking and all that, which is great. I multitask fairly well, I think. But you'll get a little bit better job if I take it home.
no. So, Danny, it's been a pleasure, especially this has been a fun experience, and, keep doing what you're doing, because those vintage pins need to get their second life.
Absolutely.
So we'll go in and pause here until our next guest comes up. We're getting close to, I think we only have one or two more. So I will see you as our next guest gets here. Okay, so as it turns out, apparently I am done. This is the side effect of not knowing the full schedule. So I appreciate if you've been watching on the stream, or for those who've been in the audience. This has been a fun experience. So hopefully you found this useful. And if you're in Little Rock and you're going to be coming to the show tomorrow, definitely check out some of these vendors and all the other vendors who are going to be here. There's a bunch of first-time vendors at Arkansas and other new things to see and check out. So I'm going to go on and sign off. I'll try and get some links and things like that put in this description. So if you check back the replay here in a few days, and then it might be check on social media for like the Arkansas Pen Club Instagram or something like that. I'll try and work with Chad, who's the president, and see if we can get some just contact info of some of this shared out after the fact. So I appreciate you following along either on YouTube or Twitch or in person. So hope you have a good night, and we will catch you later.